Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Keeping It Real on Purpose, and I am your illustrious host, Edna White. And I am so glad you're with me today. Today, we have an amazing guest here inspiring us on this episode. We're going to sit down with none other than Doris Hobbs, the Glamorous Diabetic. Woo! To talk about balancing health and success, building an authentic brand, and living with true purpose. With over 17 years in integrated marketing and as the host of Dose of Doris, Doris shares powerful insights on overcoming challenges, embracing wellness, and thriving in both business and life. So we don't want you to miss this. Listen in, grab your pins, because here she is, Doris Hobbs.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So how do you show up in the world?
I could say by being glamorous, but
you are glamorous, girl. Go.
But in all honesty, I would say being authentic, being real, being who I am, being that soul living this human experience.
Okay. Awesome. So tell us about, this road that you're on with, business, wellness, influence. Tell us a little bit more about Doris.
Oh God, that's why my YouTube channel is called Dose of Doris, because I don't think anyone can handle all of it.
I think they can.
No, I just, started off as a young child knowing that there was more to life than what I was living. And I think that was just fast forward, many, many decades, later, like when I got to my 30s, that's when I felt like it was go time. That's when I felt like I am living in a matrix. Like there's a red pill and there's the blue pill, and I need to make a decision. Am I going to stay where I'm at, or am I going to move forward? And at that time I had a business mentor, and I remember it was so funny. I was sitting, well, he's my ex now, but we were sitting on the sofa, and it's a red sofa, and he had a blue polo on, and it was symbolizing blue pill to stay where you're at, or red pill to go through the rabbit hole. And when I looked back at that, I was just like, oh my God, like I was being set up here, And so I remember being on the phone with my mentor, and I told her, I said, you know what, what do I got to do next? And then I just went down the rabbit hole. And then shortly after, we went separate ways and went on my own and started my whole spiritual journey. So
that's great. What inspired you to embrace the title, The Glamorous Diabetic?
Because I feel that there's so much negativity with diabetes, and there's so many people with diabetes, which is just getting out of control, honestly. And I believe differently with diabetes of how people are diagnosed. Some of it's with food, some of it's, lack of fitness, but then other times it's an emotional code. And I know mine was an emotional code. I was triggered by narcissists in my life. And because I was healthy, I was eating healthy, I was working out daily. So for me to, have this at the age of 33 as an offset was shocking to my family and everyone. They were just like, this doesn't happen, and you're the healthiest person we know. So how did this happen? And I knew down to my core, it was because of the narcissist in my life and all the emotional stress. And so I just went off doing some advocacy work, and I just started, using my marketing background. And I just said, well, how can I get myself on TV shows to be, I guess, like not an icon, but like, be
an influencer. Absolutely.
Yeah. An influencer, like positivity, bringing awareness to the cause. Right. Yeah. And so I figured, not a lot of people talk about diabetes on, TV stations and stuff. So I said, I need to have a glamorous or something edgy. So then that's where the Glamorous Diabetic came from. And it helped because I was able to spread a lot of awareness with my persona. So,
well, that's really good. I mean, I love the tie. I just love it. I love the Glamorous Diabetic. Yeah, and you're right. And then you just brought something to light. I had no idea about diabetes. Maybe I did. Not just diabetes, maybe diabetes only, but other health problems coming at a certain age that never was around before from emotionalism.
I've read books on it. It's a real thing. And a lot of doctors, I mean, I'm, no offense to anyone that's a doctor that's watching. I mean, you do great work, but I'm just not a doctor type of person. I'm more of a spiritual person.
Me neither.
Yeah. And I don't rely on science. I rely on faith. And I believe that our bodies are hospitals and we want to heal ourselves. Because I always tell people, if I were to, cut my arm, what's going to happen? It's going to start bleeding, but what's going to happen shortly after that? It's going to heal itself. Our bodies want to heal themselves. Yeah. So that's why when doctors tell me, oh, you're type 1, you'll never heal that. I'm just like, are you serious? Is it the pharmaceutical part of it that you want to keep me hooked on?
I've always said that. I say that to them now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm being very, very, very like quiet, like touchy about what I'm saying here, because, if I went really like uncandid, oh my gosh, what I would say would be crazy, because it is pharmaceutical cells. Okay, fine.
Sure.
It is pharmaceutical
Absolutely.
cells. And then some of the food ingredients in our food. So I eat very clean,
my gosh,
very
the
healthy.
food is killing us. It's killing us.
100%. And you wonder why so many other people are becoming diabetics, because they're getting addicted to high sugar foods.
It's terrible. It's terrible that the way we're treated. But I fired 2 doctors because of that what you just said, the statement of, you're never going to get rid of that.
Oh, yeah.
But you're going to give me medication that I have to take for my life.
But that's going to cause another side effect. But you're going to have to take medication for that side effect. And then it's a snowball effect.
No, what he said to me, which I knew he was lying, he said, it doesn't have a side effect. What? Something that you're telling me to take for my life doesn't have a side effect? For the rest of my life. But I said, well, what does it do? Because it was cholesterol. I said, well, what does it do for the situation I have now? Does it decrease it? What does it do? No, it prevents you from having a heart attack. I said, so it doesn't get rid of that? No, it just prevents you from having a heart attack. So how do you know I'm going to have? I said, how do you know if it's not hereditary? Oh, did you take the test? So they tell you the test lasts after they give you the medicine. But if you keep asking questions, you get the right answer.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times doctors don't like the people like us where we're asking questions.
Yes.
I go in and I say, when they ask me, here's a medication. I say, well, is there a holistic way? Is there an all natural thing I can do?
I say the same thing.
I can eat to reverse this. And they frown at me. Oh my God, because it's pharmaceutical cells. They're making money. So every time they give you a pill, they made money.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you one better. So I go into the doctor. I'm having hip surgery because I had a car accident several years ago that I broke both hips. So now they're kind of worn and they have to replace it, which I'm happy about because I walk about a mile a day, every day. Right. So I walk in and I'm doing the pre-surgical stuff. Right. And the nurse says, did you bring the list of your medicines? I said, I don't have it. She says, you don't have the list? You want me to call the doctor? I said, no, I don't have any. You don't have any what? I said, I don't have any medicine. So she gets up, she goes and tell the head nurse, this patient does not have any medicine. She said, oh, I gotta see this. I was like cracking up. I said, this can't be true. She said, I have to see this. So she comes in. She says, you're my type of patient. I have not seen this in so long. Because usually when you come in with a hip replacement, there's a whole lot of myriad other things that's going on. I said, no, I just had a car accident that both of my hips were broken. And she was like, oh my God. And you're walking around. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But I don't want to walk in pain anymore. So, and she was like, wow. So they were so thrilled to hear that no one's on medication. But when you're right, advocate for yourself. Everybody should be doing it. Don't just take their word for it, because they'll go the medicine route before they go the holistic route.
Oh, 100%. They always do, because it's money in their pocket. It is. Yeah.
One doctor told me, no, I don't get paid no more. No more by telling you to take the medicine. I said, really?
Well, then you would be all natural, because honestly, like I look at it when I eat food, if it's from God, I want it. Meaning if it's from the earth, it's from the ground, like that's the food I want. I don't want foods in boxes or bags, because that's from man. And that has some A lot of times it has some sneaky chemicals in there.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
then I'm the type of person where I'm sitting there Googling in the grocery store on my iPhone, like, okay, what does this ingredient
Me
mean?
too.
What does this mean? You know, because I'm just like, wait, last time I checked, I'm a soul living a human experience. I'm not a science project. Like, and you know, you think about our poor bodies and what they put up with, not only with the foods, but with medications, with the
Yes.
elements, with, like outside with the toxins in the air and stuff.
Yes,
I mean,
everything. Yes.
and stress. I mean, gosh, our
Yes,
bodies are
yes.
just machines, just running nonstop.
Yeah, it really is. The experience of just going to the store, reading every label.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And you lose trust. You lose
Yeah,
trust because
it's
when you do find
exhausting.
one ingredient,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, you sneaky guys. Like,
Yeah, and you have to know the new names too, right? You have to know they rename it something else.
Yeah.
Every time. You have to really know. So yeah, it's a lot of work to be looking at things like that. But it's totally worth it when you feel better.
Yeah.
I will tell you, just eating gluten when I came home from China in 2013, I had a seizure. I had a seizure. I was eating the food and just at home, my kids made me everything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat this macaroni and cheese. I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't have it in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Came home and got sick. And that was the end of my life as I knew it,
And isn't it sad in life there, like even for myself, sometimes like there was a certain, like I had these little mini chocolate chip cookies at, I don't want to say the name because I don't want to get in trouble, but fine, I'll say it, Sprouts. And it's in the bulk little aisle. And I just had like a couple of them and they raised my blood sugar up to almost 500.
Wow.
And I was like reading, I went back on the website to go, what was in the ingredients of these little mini cookies? They were tiny little cookies. And I was just like, I only had like 4 or 5. Like this, why did this spike my blood sugar? It only said 15 carbs, right? And I'm reading all the ingredients. It did say bioengineered, which I was just like, that's interesting. But it was one of those like moments where I was stacking my insulin, taking more insulin, more because I just wanted to come down because the feeling that I was having was so terrible that I eventually was like, okay, I'm never eating cookies again because it always takes that one really, really life-altering experience where you're in so much pain and agony where you're just like, you swear it off and you never do it again.
Right.
So that's
me too. I swear it off. I'm like, okay, I'll never do it. And I'm finding more and more foods that I was eating that was fine with me now are not. As cleaner as my body
that's
gets.
a spiritual thing. When I started my spiritual journey, I became sensitive to like coconut sugar. I became sensitive to all different like red meats. Like it was weird. And I was eating those prior. And then I started going on the spiritual journey and your body is like changing vibration. It's changing.
That's what it is.
Oh, you're changing your frequency is changing.
Oh my goodness.
Don't you realize like when you're like certain foods, like when you're detoxing your life, foods are going to change. Your body's going to change. The people around you are going to detox from. Jobs, situations, you're detoxing right across the board and you don't realize it. You think you're just detoxing maybe food. You're going across the board and that's what happened with me. But it happens in different times. And but then the crazy part about it is after you go through your spiritual journey and you kind of adjust yourself, certain foods you can't eat again, but you have to welcome them back into your body and others just do not make a home again with you. So
yes. And I have a few that I've, you have to, because I thought maybe I was sleeping wrong. I was getting a headache and I'm like, I didn't eat anything different, and now you awakened me to that. It is this new, you're right. It is a new spiritual level because I kept saying, what am I, a Nazarene or something? Like every month is a different thing that I can't eat. It's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I went through the same thing for over a year and it got so frustrating. And then I just said, you know what, I'm just going to like not eat. So I did a 5-day fasting to reset my body.
Gotcha.
And that was the most spiritual thing I could have ever done for myself.
Gotcha.
But and then I went back to doing some keto for a little while, which helped. But keto is not long-term because people say, oh yeah, just do keto and you see it all on Instagram and it's all trendy and stuff. But long-term, it's hard.
Oh yeah.
So hard. And your body, And, unfortunately, your body does need some carbs, but you got to find out
Yes.
what the healthy
Yes.
carbs are.
That is exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, one of my friends who was 13 and he had to be totally vegan. Right.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I was trying to figure out all these foods things, and he said to me, he gave me a couple of recipes. He said, but the best thing you could do is, Edna, listen to your body.
Yep.
That's the best thing you could do. You can't do it like me, but listen to your body.
Oh, yeah. That's why Instagram screwed me up so many times, because I got so involved with this keto where it was like my energy was so weak. I felt so like the first couple of weeks to a month, you feel great. But then after you get through a month, it's called the keto flu, where you feel like you have the flu, but you don't. And you just feel everything. And it's just like you're just depleting your whole entire life, like your body. I mean, in your life, it's just draining. Your quality is just going completely.
Wow, that's really good information. You have given me some things to have enlightened me.
Have you ever done the muscle test? Because we're talking about our bodies know. Have you done the muscle test?
I have not. No.
Okay, so the muscle test is pretty cool. Where I've read about this, where you stand in a room. Because your body is going to know what it wants. You stand in a room, I always shake my arms, loosen myself up. You close your eyes and you ask like at least 3 priming questions. So the first question you can ask, like, for example, am I wearing a black blazer? And obviously I am. So then I would go, yeah, I would ask myself, am I wearing a black blazer? Your body, if it sways forward on its own, it's going to sway front or back. So if it sways forward, that's yes. If it sways backwards, it's no. So if you sway forward, you're like, okay, so now I'm going to say, am I wearing a pink shirt? And that's a no. So my body should go backwards. Then you ask one more question. Is my name Doris? Okay. And you go forward. Then you loosen yourself up again. And then you start asking questions. And then your body's going to sway forward and back. And that's the muscle test. It's telling you, because sometimes we get so confused about certain things and we don't know what to do, but our body and our intuition and everything inside already has the answers. So sometimes I'll do that just for a little guidance to kind of give me clarity. Like if I think something's this way, then I'm like, I'm going to muscle test myself to see if it's really, if I'm going to confirm it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. That's like a Ouija board.
Almost. Yeah.
Very good.
It works. When I read about this, I was like, okay. And it was just crazy. And then, when you ask questions, even if you go deep into asking questions about maybe an ex-boyfriend, ex-husband or something like that, your body will start swaying. And sometimes when I asked the question about my ex, it swayed so almost violently one way. And I'm like, okay, I already knew the answer, but oh my God, my body was throwing me. I was oh my God, I get the point.
Yeah, I do believe that your body will tell you things, and I do believe that your intuition speaks, but it will never outspeak you. It will always be, you have to be still, like you said. And when you be still, it tells you. You ask the right questions, you get the right answers,
Well, and that's when you say be still, that's one of the fundamental things in the Bible, be still, right? Yeah. And so it's with the Bible, I always tell people, I started reading it last year and it was the most transforming thing in my life. But the Bible, it becomes real. It becomes alive. It's the craziest thing. People would say it comes alive and you're like, how does it come alive? It's just, I just can't describe it, but it just does. The words come, but it's different.
It comes to practical. It becomes practically in your life. It just comes alive. You're right.
I read Psalms last summer. Now I'm reading it again, 2 different seasons of my life, and it's not resonating the same way. It's resonating.
No, it will never. It will never do that, hon. It will never do that. It will never do that. I studied the Bible for over 29 years, and at this stage in the game, it's so different now. I read totally different now.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm into the canons and adding pieces to it. The canons, Quran. I got all these things, going on, but I read it all so differently. It means so much differently. And now I'm at the stage I don't need any of those things. It's like I'm so I can't even explain where I am because I don't really know.
Well,
But
no, that's a beautiful thing, because it's almost like when you start reading it, it's almost kind of like you're holding, like, God's hand in a way, like, like a child holding the father's hand. And you're like, oh my God, I need this. But then you're at a stage right now where it's just like,
I don't
the word's
need
in
it.
you just know
I
it.
don't need it. I need, and practice, I've applied for the last several years. I would say 7 or 8 years. It's become alive where you are now. It has become, before I was just learning it,
Yeah.
memorizing. Everything was memorizing, and I spent lots of time memorizing, knowing this history, knowing the stories, know the back end of everything, Now that 7 years after that, now it was practical, applying it. Now I'm seeing it in a different version, energetically. It's like it's energy now.
Yes. And I think the thing with me is, like, when I read it, it gives me peace.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff I don't understand. Some of the stuff I'm just like, kind of like, I have to read it a couple times going, okay, what does this all mean? But then it's just washing over peace with me. And I think that's just the biggest takeaway of just the peace that the Bible brings to you, even if you don't understand certain things.
Yeah.
And that's the thing,
being
like,
still.
and that was the thing, like, going through, like, a lot of situations in my life, I never understood what God's voice was. It was always like my ego or my voice being louder than his voice. And a lot of times overruling, like, my intuition or the subtle little whispers.
Yeah.
And, like, one of my biggest mistakes was going to LA, because I thought that's where I needed to go. It was just a whole ego play. And I went there twice, 2 different summers, thinking that the first time was, oh, okay, it's okay. I made a little mistake, whatever. Went back the second time, and that was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. And I didn't even think I was going to get out of it. And I knew no man, no human person could get out of that mess, because I dug myself deep. And I just prayed to God, and I just knew that I had to be patient. And I call that my Jonah in the well, Jonah in the well, and the belly. Everything. That was my experience. And unfortunately, I had to wait 30 days. I didn't get out sooner like Jonah did, but I had 30 days of waiting there. And he put me through a long test of, repenting. I learned how to repent. I've never repented so much in my life. I got to learn his voice. It was so many lessons. It was like he was schooling me with my environment of what was happening. So when I came back, I was just like, wow, I thought I was close to you the last couple of mistakes I made, but now I'm even closer to you. And I've learned that when you run from him, he chases after you. And that's the most beautiful thing, because a lot of us don't feel like we're worthy, we're not loved. And it's a lot of times we look outside, we buy materialistic items, or we look for, friends or spouses, or we look for a relationship to make us whole.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like we were talking about earlier, like you said, it's not being single, it's singlehood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like a choice. Yeah. And I feel more complete now than I've ever felt in my whole entire life.
Knowing that you have a choice. Knowing that you have a choice.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you. We want to switch gears now. We're going to talk to the balancing wellness and ambition in part of you that you are bringing to us today. We know that entrepreneurs and executives often struggle to maintain health while chasing success. What's a practical step that you would recommend for balancing both without burnout?
Well, for me, fitness is everything, not just because the diabetes, even before I was a diabetic, fitness was everything. And what I mean by fitness is just, if you're not, don't have a home gym, or you don't have a gym at where you live, just walking to me is almost like a meditation.
Sure.
It's my time out in nature. I try to stay off of my phone as much as I can, so I can experience what God has created around me. And then it just, ground myself. I would also have to say I did Reiki several times. Oh my gosh. That was so transformative. Like the first time when I got off the table, I always inject all my insulin on my left-hand side. I could feel the energy force like shift a whole, like it was like my body got very heavy on the right hand side. It was just crazy how it shifts your energy and clears you. So I think of us as, if you're going to think of an analogy, we're like cars and we have to maintain us. We need oil changes. We need all this. So I believe Reiki is like giving us our maintenance check.
Gotcha.
And I think I always encourage everybody to try to at least get 1 or 2 sessions a year, just to, do your maintenance on you. And then the rest of the time you can go on YouTube and find some great Reiki music there, or sound bath, or sound bowls, or whatever, sound bowls bath. And then you can just do it at home and meditate, and then reading. I love reading. And I just think that's just, with a cup of tea, that's just, so I feel like those are like easy little practices that we all have, abilities to, touch on and have.
Right. That's awesome. With over 17 years in marketing, what are the key elements of building a powerful personal brand that stands out in today's digital world?
Never give up. It was funny. I don't know if you've ever seen this illustration, but my father showed it to me, and it was of the crane bird, and the frog was in the crane's mouth, and the frog strangling the bird. I remember being like probably 8 years old when my father showed me that, and I was just like reading it, and I said, never give up. And he said, yeah, never give up. Like, even if the bird's trying to swallow the frog's still fighting. Like, no, you're not going to swallow it, right? And I kind of just took that through my whole entire life of never giving up. And even with myself, like, when I was growing up being tall and stuff, everybody said, oh, you should be a model. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to San Francisco. Like, why not? Right. I'm in high school. I was like, why not? I have nothing else to do. So I went to San Francisco, got a modeling portfolio, had a photographer take pictures of me. Oh my God. I got brutally slayed all through the industry. Oh, you're too tall. We don't like your nose, this and that. Everything was wrong with me, talking about, making me feel smaller than I already did in high school.
Wow.
And it was just one of those things where I was just like, what am I doing? Right. Like, what is all this about? So I didn't give up. So what I did was I started my own fashion blog many, many years later, when I was, after my teens and 20s and everything. I was doing my marketing and stuff. Then when I got to like 30 years old, I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own fashion blog. I'm going to be my own model.
There you go.
My own, I'm going to do my own sponsorships. I'm going to do my own.
That's it.
So, but it didn't happen right away. I had to like go through other, God was preparing me in other ways. And I look back now and I see everything, how he made me a freelance writer. I was like, okay. Then he made me doing, like some sales and marketing for other, companies. It was just crazy how he was putting me. I got on TV. I wrote my own, I wrote a book. So all these little things were happening. And then the fashion blog happened. And then the whole glamour persona happened, because I wasn't doing the glamour when I was in my early 20s. So it was just preparation. And then it happened because I didn't give up. And I was willing to try and do as much as I could to be well-rounded. Because I think one thing a lot of people do, they trap themselves into one industry and they become like a one-trick pony or whatever. To me, I feel like I want to touch all walls. I want to do as much as I can, that excites me and makes me excited. So for me, I love media. I love marketing. I love vintage. I love, being of service to people. I'll have my faith, the whole diabetes advocacy work. There's so much I love to do. And it's really crazy how I can weave them all together like a tapestry now.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
that's because they're all you. They're all components of you, and that's why it's so easy.
Yeah. Well, and this is, you think about, sometimes you sit back and you go, how did I get certain skill sets? Well, that was your God-gifted gift, and that's what I always tell people when they say I don't know what to do. I'm like, what are you gifted? What did God give you as a gift?
Yeah, what do you get?
Because we all have a gift.
That's right.
So just
use what you have. That's one of the stories in the history, is use what you have. What did Moses do? Use what you have, right?
Yeah.
That's really it. Awesome. So let's talk about the Dose of Doris podcast. What motivated you to get this started?
Well, COVID, actually, I was living at that time before I bought my condo. I was living in a studio apartment, and then COVID happened. And then I was doing my Dose of Doris, but it was just like an image of me and a voiceover. And then when COVID happened, I wanted to get dolled up. I wanted to dress up and everything, and I had nowhere to go. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do my hair and makeup and sit, get dressed up and try to do these videos and see where they take me. And they were therapeutic, because I started having people that were like, because I worked in the wine industry for a while. Some of my wine clients I never thought would ever watch my videos saw that I was doing these. And they said, oh, wow, your information was very helpful. And I'm just like, this is like a very high-end wine owner saying that I was helpful to him. Like, that was just kind of like inspiring and just like, wow, okay. So I just kept on doing them. And then when I moved into my condo, then I think of that as my wilderness. That was where God stripped everything away from me. So really all I had was his word, learning what his voice was, and my videos. So that's just what I did. And when I look back at it, that's my whole life journey up, not my whole life journey, but it was my whole spiritual journey to where I started to where I am now. So if I go back a couple of years, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not even that person anymore. But that's the beauty of growth. When people don't want to grow, they kind of have to realize that you are growing. Maybe you're just not growing in the right way.
Direction. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we all have to grow. We all have to go somewhere, you know? So it's just like, why not grow in good habits and good behavior and just doing what's going to be of service to others. And I think that's what we're lacking in the world, of being of service to others and helping people.
Right.
And beautiful. Yeah.
Well, on that note, you gave us a great piece of information. Audience, I hope you had your pens, your paper, and even your recorders on. And if you don't, have a replay, because what our guest gave to us today, Doris, has been some great information. So you gotta be ready. You gotta be glamorous, okay? She gave you some glamorous things. She gave you some wellness ideas, and she helped you build something about your brand. All of that today. So I hope you gained something today. And right now, we're going to say goodbye for now. But I want to thank my illustrious guest, Doris Hobbs, for being here, the Glamorous Diabetic. Thank you for being here today on Keeping It Real. And I'm your host, and we're saying goodbye for now.